Hello. Welcome once again to another exciting episode of Victory Never Sleeps. Um, Tonight we are in for a very special treat. My lovely wife Mandy is going to join us this evening. She's got to wrangle our daughter here quick at the beginning and get her all settled so she can get on. So she'll be joining us here in just a few. But yeah, we got exciting things going on. These are very exciting times to be Asatru and very exciting times to be in the AFA. I'm going to start off the evening on an amazing note. You guys have heard me on here talking about this for several months and asking for donations and trying to wring dollars out of you guys, and I really appreciate everyone who's been generous and allowed for this to happen. As of today, Sigerheim is ours. We have closed on the property. We have our location now. Right now, it is raw land and a dream. But in the coming years, coming months, years, and decades, it will become a beautiful and amazing home for the Asatru Folk Assembly, for many of our members, for Tiershoff, and got a lot of really special things going to happen there. So I am very excited to announce that, and I think it is necessary to give a huge thank you to folk builder Daniel Mason and his wife Kira, and to Gothi Daniel Young. These folks have helped make this happen in a huge way. Daniel has been on top of this. This has been something that he has done all of the running around and the legwork for. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you, and history will appreciate you. So I'm very excited. I'm still wrapping my head around it and absorbing all of it. It's a very, very exciting thing and a very exciting time. What else? I've been spending so much of my effort on that this last, few weeks. That's been a lot of my focus. I'm trying to think of what else I need to mention to you guys, or what else we've got going on in the Asatru Folk Assembly in the coming months. I know everybody is getting geared up and excited for Yule this month. Some of you guys have your Yule celebrations coming up. I know a few people, like folks out in Washington, have already done some of their Yule celebrations. So as that gets closer, I wish you and yours an amazing Yule this year. There's plenty to celebrate. So coming up next year, the first event that I know about that's happening that I want you guys to get squared away on, if you can do it, is going to be Charming of the Plow at Njordshof. This is going to be Njordshoff's first national event that they're hosting, and I'm very excited for that. It's going to be in February. It's a lovely time of year in Florida. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's just right. And we're looking forward to all you guys coming there. If we have information on it, if we could throw it up on the screen, or certainly if folk builders over on the side can let it be known what the dates are. And that's going to be at Njordshof in White Springs, Florida. With that, we will kill some time until my wife gets here. We've got plenty of local events going on. I want you guys to make sure you're checking out your local Hof District websites. Those have event calendars. And I was talking with Nick earlier about how many events we have going on each week. And it's hard to tell exactly, but the short answer is lots. Just thinking about it, there's probably at least 8 to 10 events going on every weekend that are AFA events spread across the country, but also around the world. Since I talked to you last, we've got our first that I know about French member We've got first that I know about a Dutch member as well. We've got good things happening in South Africa with a relatively new apprentice folk builder there that's doing great things. We've got a lot of good things happening. Looking over at the side, I am seeing lots of celebrating. I'm celebrating tonight with some Sierra Nevada Narwhal Imperial Stout, and it's delicious. And I appreciate you guys being partners on this journey. I also see over in the chat another promised donation from Roland Blake. Roland, you have consistently been donating to make this happen, and it is much, much appreciated. Thank you very much. Before I get going, I know we got some questions lining up that I'm happy to get to. I want to mention we are on several different platforms right now. We're broadcasting on YouTube. We are on Entropy if you want to go participate in any super chat feature, or if you want to give tips / donations there, those are always welcome and always very useful to us. We are on Odyssey, and we are on VK and Twitter. So please check us out there, and anybody listening on those platforms, great to have you with us. First question from Tim. Matt, do you and Mandy have any Yule traditions in your home or from your childhood you want to share with us? Mandy might. You know what? I want to say that we've got lots of great Yule traditions. I would like to say that. We don't. We're working on establishing some of those and getting that figured out, because now we've got Aubrey, and she's getting old enough to really enjoy that. I mean, certainly we've got different traditions and celebrations from our childhood. I'm trying to think of anything that's, particularly outstanding, and coming up fairly blank on it. And I wish I had something fantastic for you guys. I really don't, other than the same stuff that folks normally do. This has always been my favorite time of year. Especially as a kid. One thing I really, remember fondly as a kid was my parents taking me around to see all the lights. And that was always, just such a neat thing. And we've got it doesn't seem like people do lights quite as much as they have in previous years. But here in Reno, we've got a really cool neighborhood that they go all out, and it's like they compete with each other for these amazing yard displays. And one of them has a radio station that they synchronize to their holiday music, and all the lights go off in sync with the music, and it's really something to see. So I mean, certainly that. I've got these 2 candle holders from when I was a little kid that my dad got, and we always called them the moose dogs, because they're the worst attempt at making a reindeer. It basically looks like a dog that's got moose antlers. They're supposed to be reindeer. They're not, but they're really cool, and I have them, and that's something from my childhood that I kept. So I wish I had an awesome answer about special Yule traditions that I've got, and I really don't. King of Cheese. Matt, good to see you tonight. How's working out at the gym going? Working out at the gym is always going good. I look forward to that all the time. It makes me happy. It certainly is good stress relief or anything else, but it's just a cool thing. I love going to our gym specifically. There's a lot of people that don't like a crowded gym. They always like to go when it's not crowded, or they would prefer a home gym to where they don't have to deal with the crowds or whatever. That's not me. I'm the opposite. I love when the gym is crowded, not when it's so crowded that I can't get the equipment that I want, but I just like being around so many people doing things to better themselves. So many people with their eye towards making themselves the very best they can be. The gym, I'm lucky. The gym that I go to, American Iron, it's got ranked power lifters, ranked strongmen, ranked bodybuilders, both male and female, all kind of athletes and folks there that are really doing their best to make their bodies the very best they can to achieve excellence at their sport. and it's just cool to surround yourself with people that are working that hard. I think that that drive and that positivity rubs off. So I look forward to that. So I always love going to the gym. It's, you know, I could say there's a training reason that I go every single day, and you know, there's something to that, but it's more that I just really like to be there, and I like to go, and I like having done it. It's been something I've done now for 23, 24 years. And my joints aren't particularly happy with me about it, but no, gym's going great. Thank you for asking. Chris. So I'm kind of picking through our questions because I'm going to save the Mandy ones till she gets on with us. So we got a question. Is there a group nearby the Tri-Cities area? I got to say, I'm not familiar with what 3 cities the Tri-Cities makes up. If somebody wants to let me know over in the side or whatever, I can shed some light on that. Sorry, guys. I'm looking through the questions to try to find ones that I want to, that don't, that wouldn't be better having Mandy chime in on also. I'm sorry. All right. So I will, tonight is a continuation of our series on the noble virtues. And I don't just have Mandy on here because she is fantastic and because I love her. I have Mandy on here because AFA leadership very strongly thought that she was the example that should be on tonight to represent the value and the virtue of fidelity. Fidelity very often in today's common speech is associated with like romantic relationships, but it doesn't really mean that. It's got such a bigger meaning, and it's something that I want us to talk about and kind of internalize tonight. Fidelity comes from the root of faithfulness or being loyal to something. So it's a word that at its core means loyalty to something, to someone, to a group of someone's. Certainly that applies in your romantic relationship, but it also applies and was much more commonly used in the past to be your allegiance to a lord, to a king, to your country, to your group, to your tribe, your fidelity, your loyalty with yours, whatever that group might be, but that value of that enduring loyalty. And that's why it's such an important virtue. And one thing about fidelity is it's one of our virtues that's very easy to talk about in the abstract, in this common sense from a distance. But when it comes down to pressure and consequence, it's much harder to remain loyal to something or to someone when that's out of fashion, or when there's a social consequence to it, when there is, you know, we've always heard about the fair weather friends. It's much harder to maintain your loyalty when times are hard and when there's shared sacrifice or there's shared risk. That's when fidelity really gets tested. All right, Nick, go ahead and throw up that graphic. Talking about a couple of Sigerheim things here. We've got one asking us where the location, what part of Tennessee Sigerheim is in. So out of abundance of of caution, we're not super giving out the address and everything just yet. All of that will come in the coming days and weeks. It is in eastern central Tennessee. It's about an hour and a half from Nashville. So that's the general location. It's in a very beautiful, beautiful, hilly, lush, amazing area. And it's so pretty. And I really want you guys to be able to see it and experience it. I'm very excited about it. But yeah, that central and eastern area there, east central area there. See a question. The Tri-Cities, Pasco, Richland, and Kennewick. So let me take a look at our member map here, because we do have quite a few members in Washington, and I believe we have a decent amount of members in Eastern Washington there. So I'm taking a look. We've, as would be expected, we've got a big group near Coeur d'Alene, a huge, a very large segment of our membership is on that I-5 corridor over there to the west. We do not have a ton of people in the Kennewick area. We do have a person over in Walla Walla, and we got a little bit of distance from there to your next closest members. But if you get on the other side of the Cascades, we got tons of members. If you get up near Coeur d'Alene, we have quite a few members. And I know people do stuff periodically through there. I know that near Leavenworth is where we were hosting Charming of the Plow for a number of years. I'm not sure if that's where we'll have it this year up there, but that's always been pretty active. And I know we have membership that travels through that area quite a bit. So we do have folks that go through there very often. And we'd love to see that area develop. Got a question. Are Grimm's fairy tales heathen lore? What constitutes heathen lore? I'd say in a way. It's an interesting question that you ask, because it's not as clean cut as all that. So much of what we learn about the very ancient practices of our ancestors comes to us through indirect means. Very little of it, none of it was written as a religious text. The closest thing that was written as a religious text was written as a poetic text and as a preservation of oral tradition in the Eddas. But beyond that, we get so much of our lore from histories, from the sagas, and in a way we get pieces of that. I think that the high lore, when we think about our gods, isn't passed down in a very clear way through Grimm's fairy tales, but I think folk tradition and folk ideology does make its way through there. And those lessons, and you got to be careful. It's not a one-for-one lore source. You have to dig through it and kind of work for the lessons that it has. But those lessons are lessons about our folk. And very often it's full of so many traditions from our folk. So it does have value a little bit in a lore sense. It's not something that I would include in a list of lore, but I don't think including it is entirely wrong either. I know it's kind of a wishy-washy answer. You ask what constitutes heathen lore. Certainly, the sagas and the Eddas are huge in that, but other works of history are that too. I mean, very few lore conversations don't involve Tacitus's Germania, and that was, a historical and, in a way, a geographical travel guide to some of the provinces and areas outside the provinces for Rome. It wasn't written for a religious purpose, but we still count a lot of that as lore. I know various English histories, works of straight up Christian monks we consider part of our lore because they tell very important pieces of what our ancestors believed and how they practiced. So I think that what constitutes our lore is very vast. You can consider works of sociology and archaeology having a place amongst our lore, even if they're completely secular and scientific, because they talk about, from an abstract and an outside point of view, what our ancestors did and how they did it. And it also talks about their material culture that helps you better understand the things that they valued and put emphasis on. Melissa asks, what is the first thing structure-wise that will be placed on the property of Sigerheim once it's ready? So that's a good question. We have just incurred a pretty good sized debt to acquire Sigerheim. So the AFA wise, we're going to wait until we have paid off that debt before we invest into other building projects on Sigerheim. Individually, though, individuals in the AFA that wish to move out there and build homes for themselves there, that's the first thing that I believe is going to happen. And we're still in the process of figuring out who those first pioneers are going to be to make that happen. But I think that's going to be the first step. And those people are going to help kind of carve an area out and get a dirt road from the road into where their home's going to be, and electric and services to that area, and we can branch off from there to the subsequent homes and buildings that come there. But that's going to be the first thing. Other two big things in the first couple of phases on Sigerheim, AFA wise, are our great hall that we're going to have there. Again, we have, it's going to be a little bit. We've got a big debt to deal with, and then we need to figure out the financing and the construction and how we're going to do that. But we're going to have a big hall to gather at, to feast, to celebrate together in, and also a place for the AFA administration to function from. So we'll have a big hall with industrial kitchen facilities so we can feed people there and host events there. The hall itself for people to gather and be kind of a multi-purpose area, and an eating space and a place to gather and to celebrate and to have talks and hang out and fellowship with each other. And then we're also going to have a section with, office space, conference rooms, those kind of get the work of the AFA done spaces. There she is.
Hello.
My wife is joining us from
downstairs.
Downstairs in our dining room. Welcome, Mandy. Glad to have you on. People have been wanting you on this program for months now, so we're all really excited to have you. And
hi,
there is
guys.
my daughter. There is Marie.
She's munching.
So I will go back up to the top and get to some of these questions. The first one was okay. Tim had a question. I kind of sort of answered, but it was unexciting because I didn't really have any. Do you have any Yule traditions from your childhood that you want to share?
Not really. We were pretty a-religious, but we celebrated Christmas just because that's what you do. Actually, yes, there's only one thing I can think of, and I'm sorry it's only half my face, but here, let me see. We would go to a very close family friends every Christmas Eve, and we would have meatballs and just appetizers, and we would just do presents, and we did that for probably 25 years actually, until the woman that was the host just became too old to host it. But that's kind of the only thing that we would really do tradition wise. You guys like seafood?
So here is a inside baseball note from the Flavel house. Aubrey will be perfectly well behaved and silent, but the second one of us unmutes the mic to talk, all of a sudden Aubrey's got to make every noise she can think of.
She's going to be going to bed in probably the next 15 or 20 minutes.
That's a game she likes to play, just so you guys know. All right, so Christine has a question for you.
Hey, Christine!
Mandy, how do you stay positive and loyal when people say negative things about the AFA, your husband, and yourself?
I couldn't always, especially when it comes to staying positive. Matt and I do this every single day. The AFA is 95, maybe more % of our lives. And so it's hard not to take everything personally because, I mean, you're talking about my family. Like when somebody leaves, I used to just get so mad. Like, how dare you? How dare you leave and then talk a bunch of lies about us or speak poorly about us when the day before we were best friends. And I guess it's just gotten to a point where that stuff just doesn't really matter anymore. We've grown to such a level that those are the people that are the losers. They're the ones that aren't in our family anymore. And it sucks to suck for them. They're not going to get to enjoy all the awesome things that we are here now. Was that her question? Did I answer her question? Christine, I hope that was your question. I'm distracted. I think you of all the women I know exactly about that.
Well, I think that Mandy makes a really important point there. We take everything personal. And maybe, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't think that we should or would advise, like, don't take it personally. But I think that one of the reasons what we have is so special and this works the way that it does is because it is a family and because we do take it personal. I don't think I would be nearly as effective as an ulterior Gothi if I was able to just leave this, leave it at work and not put all of my heart into this. I'll tell you this for mine, not that you asked, but I'm interjecting it anyway. I think it's relevant. It's always hard and we feel betrayed when people who, like she said, they were our best friends. We were super close. And then all of a sudden the next day they split with us and feel the need to attack us.
The very next day.
The next day.
And we were the worst people in the world. And they're saying things about Matt that are just so unbelievably untrue. And
I get mad about those things and I stress about those things. But my wife gets sad about those things. And I think the hardest thing for me with betrayal and people saying negative things about us is watching my wife open herself up to these people. And you'd never know it, but Mandy's not naturally the most outgoing person.
Fake it till you make it, baby.
Well, her opening herself up and letting these people in emotionally and giving of herself to these people, and then to see the sadness in her face when they repay that so very poorly, that's the hardest thing for me. I can take it. I can take a lot of it, but watching it hurt my wife is really hard for me.
Thank you, Christine. You are gorgeous too. Mikey! Oh, sorry. I'm used to being on the other side of the chat.
So we have another question. With dating culture being what it is, most of us enter into marriage with baggage. Any advice on how best to manage this? And we'll let you go first on this, Mandy.
I will say first off, baby, thank you that I don't ever have to online date ever again, because that is a true nightmare. And that was 10 years ago. I can't even imagine what it's like now. Um, I mean, I've got my fair amount. I just try to remember that Matt is not any of them, and nothing that happened before I met him is his fault, or really has anything to do with him. As far as, I guess, if you mean like trauma, I really couldn't speak to that. I don't feel like I could speak to that. But yeah, I would say if you have that much baggage, and this is what I would tell my girlfriends too, and this is what I've told girlfriends over the years. If you have don't go out dating if you're not somebody would want to date. Date yourself first. Be someone that somebody else wants to date. Find out who you are and who you're actually looking for, and not just who you think you're looking for. Yeah, I think you guys are tough. I was ready for this to be tough. I knew you guys were going to be tough.
Well, so that's one of the things, and not only with dating culture the way it is, but I don't know how much you want to share or whatever, but this is not either Mandy or myself's first marriage. And, we got together in our 30s, in our mid 30s. So, anybody who's been an adult that long has been through some things and got some mileage on them.
Well, we also met each other at probably one of the lowest points in my life, and it was a really unexpected time too. And I think that it was, I mean, I knew immediately. Like I called my best friend the moment my plane landed, and I was like, I met him. I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't know how it's gonna work out. I don't know when. I said, but it's done. And we had never had any. There was no romantic anything at that point. But yeah, no, I was widowed before I met Matt. I was widowed very young. And I mean, it was probably 10 years before we even met. So I had time to process that as best you can. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I think when you're not looking is really when you might be the most successful.
So I think that some common advice for the baggage is to, not compare who you're with to the people that you've had in your past. But I don't think that's possible. I don't, and maybe it's just I'm lucky because I got Mandy, but I don't do that in a negative way. One of the things that's been cool is, I feel regret for wasted time on relationships before that didn't work out, or, in retrospect were a bad idea. But if in a way it makes me appreciate what I have now so much more, and to see the things that make this relationship, make this situation, and make Mandy better than previous situations and previous people that I was with. One of the biggest things as far as baggage wise with stuff, I think that, I had gotten really used to compromising on a lot of things, and I got really used to, not having an Asatru woman, but just being lucky having somebody that's, open to me doing what I need to do. It makes such a difference having a marriage, but first having a relationship and a marriage that's based around our faith. That's kind of the point of commonality that brought Mandy and I together. We had mutual friends in the AFA, and at the time we got together, I lived in Anchorage, Alaska. I say Anchorage. I lived right outside of Anchorage in a little town called Palmer, and Mandy lived in Florida. We were as far on this continent apart as you could realistically be. But we had some friends in common that spoke, spoke highly, that they thought we'd like each other. I know the first time they went hard talking about it was we were driving through the Teutoburgerwald in Germany. Myself, the McNallans, and this guy Brad and his fiance Gilly, and I forget what we were talking about, but they just went on and on about how much I, think Mandy was great and this and that, and how much we need to meet each other. And that turns out that was, only a few months before we actually did get to meet each other. But
and they've been telling me the same thing, and I kept brushing it off. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Dudes in Alaska couldn't be further away. Get away from me with that stuff.
But no, we met at Winter Nights in the Poconos that year, and yeah, it was pretty amazing, and things happened at the right time, and it's one of the ways that I have been hugely blessed in this life. Got another question from Fawn. Mandy, what does fidelity mean to you?
Did you already? So what have you already talked about? Because
I talked about some Sigerheim stuff with folks, and then I basically gave the definition that fidelity is not just a relationship. Well, it's not just a romantic relationship thing. It basically means loyalty to cause, to person, to leader, to mate, to comrades.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really what I would say. I don't do a lot of half measures. I'm kind of all in or nothing. Matt will tell you, you're either my friend or my enemy or a person I know. I don't really have levels for things like that. So once that's been broken, there's a slim to none chance. And it's something I'm working on because it's probably not the best trait, but there's a slim to none chance that you're getting back in. And I unfortunately expect that of people as well. And like Matt said, I tend to get hurt pretty badly when that's not returned. So Matt's it. There's no, I was actually given an ultimatum shortly after Matt and I got together that it was either my previous kindred or Matt and the AFA. I had to choose. There wasn't a conversation. There was
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Just in case you were wondering. Yeah, I'm an all or nothing kind of gal, so.
This is something I've brought up before in our virtues discussions, and I think it's worth mentioning. Everybody likes to celebrate the positive and talk about the people who are super loyal, but we don't want to acknowledge people are disloyal and people are shady and two-faced. It's like with courage. We want to acknowledge and talk about and crow about courage, but we get real uncomfortable when it comes time to call out cowardice. And that's one of the things that I think is good to keep in mind. I don't really know where I'm going with this other than to just have this in mind. The choice isn't neutral or loyal. The choice is loyal or disloyal. There is, standing firm, or there's being a turncoat. And those reflect and make each other of them stand out. We're so repulsed by the person who is not loyal because they are standing in the light of the people that are champions of loyalty. And, by that same token, we see how valuable it is to have somebody who is to the bones loyal, because we see the fair weather friends that, that have no code.
was nominated for this, but my choices were actually go see Rob Stam and go see Trent East, who both had they stayed true to us when because of us in some terms, and because of us, the things happened in their life that were not great, and I'll never forget that.
Rob and Trent are some ride or die homies.
Even though Trent's ignoring me right now, that's fine, and so is his wife.
Oh, his wife ignores people hardcore.
Hambone, come on.
So, another question from Allie. What is the best marriage advice you've received? What advice would you, this is not me, the question was written strange. What advice would you give to AFA couples? Mandy, go ahead and go first.
I can't think of any advice we were ever given. Probably the don't go to bed mad. I'm not great about that because I keep grandma hours. So I go to bed when I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. Good night. For AFA couples, I don't know a general piece of advice. Oh gosh, I knew this was gonna be tough. I don't know. You go anytime. Think.
All right. So that's my trick. I always throw the questions to the guests first so that I have time to compose an answer while they're scrambling. But I think people are on to me at this point. I'm with Mandy. That really, it's cliche, but I think that the reason it's cliche is because it's so often given because it is really valuable. The don't go to bed angry thing is really important. And I think that's the advice that I would pass on to AFA couples, to any couple that I want to succeed, is that don't go to bed angry thing. Resolve issues when they come up and don't let them fester. I think one thing that people do, so I know Mandy does this. Mandy will have arguments in her head throughout the course of days with me that I'm not actually participating in, but the imaginary Matt is participating in this argument, so she'll get all worked up on it.
Why you gotta do me like that? Hey.
Because we're keeping it real. So truth is also one of our virtues. So, but by the same token, I will do that too. It is ridiculous. Mandy will catch me and say, "Who are you talking to?" I will go through and I will choreograph a physical sequence of a fight with different people that I envision might say something that I don't like. Yeah. So I think that we all do that to one degree or another, but it's really important with me, and I'm a little bit obnoxious about it, but that whole what's wrong, nothing thing, don't do that. If something's wrong, tell somebody right then what's wrong and get to the other side of it. I compared this with telling the truth the other day, but I'll harken back to it. It's like the vomit struggle. You can sit around trying for the entire evening not to throw up when you know that you need to, and be miserable for hours. And then as soon as you do, you feel good, you're happy, you feel fine, you get back to your life. And I think that's true with the things in your head.
I need to report an assault.
Not from me, it is from my child, those of you who are listening on the podcast. But very seriously, once you get that out and you purge that and you get that off your chest and you get that off your heart, that's a much better place to be. I'd say that's the thing that I can stand least in. Sorry, I apologize if my daughter is distracting y'all. She is distracting me as well.
Also, what Tony said in the chat about being honest. Like, first off, just don't lie to people anyway, because that's just bad. It's just bad manners. But if you're going to be honest with anybody, please be honest with your spouse or the person you're choosing to spend your life with. Stop. Somebody's going to bed here very, very soon because they chose not to take a nap.
Yeah, maybe they want to watch the cartoons or something. No, what I was saying though is once you get that stuff off of your chest, you can proceed. the thing that I like least is knowing that the person that I love is upset with me about something. And so I desperately flail to try to get to the other side of let's get it out, let's resolve it, because the idea that somebody that I care about is upset at me is very, very hard for me to deal with. So I think that the, don't go to bed angry thing is very important. And sometimes, and this is to men and women out there, sometimes that means you taking responsibility and owning it and taking one for the team and moving on. It's not always about fairness. I think, and I believe strongly in this, your motivation in your relationship to make sure that your partner is as happy and fulfilled and taken care of as possible. And if that means that you take a hit for it, fine. So if it's about you and you getting your just desserts, and if it's about you winning, it's never going to be fair. It's never going to work that way. It's got to be about you taking care of yourself. Your husband. It has to be about them and not about you.
I've been told that there is a question in the chat for Aubrey.
Well, we will get to it at some point if she lets me focus a little bit here.
Okay.
That's a strange thing. So as an aside, because this is my show and I will do this, as an aside, your own, for couples that don't have children, your own children's noises will bother you much more than other children's noises because you'll be hyper aware of them. I was, so Aubrey and the Erickson's daughter are the same age. The daughter Alice, they're just about the same age. They're very close. So I was dealing with Aubrey being a baby and screaming in the back seat, and it short circuits me when I try to drive to have my child screaming in the back seat, freaking out, crying, throwing a fit, doing baby stuff. But I flew there, and Katie and I and her daughter carpooled from Minneapolis to Baldershoff for Baldershoff dedication. Same situation, like 12 hours apart. I'm in the car. There's an infant about the same age in the back screaming and yelling and losing her stuff, throwing a fit. But something about the octave, it's not my child making the noise. I was completely mellow. I was like, hey, Alice, calm down. It's okay. And I'm completely fine. If that was Aubrey, I'd be white knuckled to the wheel, like stressed. So it's kind of interesting how the sound of your own child makes you act different. So we got another question. Fidelity towards our loved ones is important. Can you elaborate on fidelity in the faith? Mandy, what are your thoughts?
I mean, in terms of a relative that you might have beef with, or just your relatives in general?
I think he's more talking about the fidelity towards the faith as opposed to the one towards your loved ones.
You should elaborate on that.
Okay, I will. So, and I think this goes with all fidelity. I think this is relevant with the people that you're with, but it's also relevant with your faith. Are you really Asatru? Are you really true to the Aesir and loyal to the Aesir if you won't say so in public? That's the difference between having a girlfriend, having a wife, and having your side chick that you don't acknowledge. With our faith, if you are faithful, if you have fidelity towards our faith, then pull your hammer out and wear it. Be proud. Be Asatru. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, well, I've got a thing with some people. Bye. No, and I think we all go through that phase, but no, me and my church are celebrating Ostara. Oh, wow, Ostara, what's that? Well, see, and then tell them, or don't. Just say, hey, I'm Asatru, and that's what we do. But being able to say that out loud and in public, or, hey, I'm a member of the Asatru Folk Assembly. It's my church. I love it. I'm very excited about it. Even if you're scared that people, so I think that we're pre-gamed on this, that like we think of these very serious things. Maybe I'll get doxxed. Maybe Antifa will do something to me. But I think another thing that's very real, maybe I'll feel uncomfortable because I'm going to say something nobody's heard before and they're going to ask me strange questions. And because they've never heard of it before, maybe they're going to think I'm silly. And I think those are real concerns people have too. I know I have them. I know that's something that goes through my head that I've learned to be better at. But fidelity means standing with the ACER, standing with the Asatru Folk Assembly, standing with us, not in the privacy of your own bedroom. You didn't tell your mom and the lights are out, but you're secretly down with the cause. No, it means living this in the open and being proud and showing that you're proud of people. That's one of the important things, that's one of the most important things in a relationship too, showing that you're proud of the person that you're with. And the same thing applies to our faith, to our church. That's how I think it applies in that sense. And there's very extreme circumstances that it applies to, but on an everyday basis, I think that's how it applies. Go ahead, honey.
Also, you should want to be a person that your partner is proud of, proud to be with, proud to present as well. Sorry.
You know what? I don't even know if that answers the question, but it's extremely important. We have strange messages in society. Absolutely, you should worry about making sure you look good for your partner, or you're somebody they're proud to be next to. Those things matter and they're important. And no matter how much we pretend they're not, doesn't take away from their visceral importance. You owe it to your spouse to be the very best version of yourself you can be. I think you owe that doubly to your children, but you owe that to be the best version of yourself. And it doesn't just mean on ethereal values, but look good, be in good shape, take care of yourself, try to spruce yourself up, make yourself look nice. It's important that your spouse is proud when they stand next to you. And that's something that I keep in mind and I hope I do well with, something I know Mandy does awesome with. I'm excited to have her on with us tonight. It's really a privilege to have her with us on this. I'm really proud of that.
I did not want to be on here, y'all. Just so you know. But somebody, I think it was Fawn, came up with the term Flavor Flavel, and I thought that was really fun. I thought, well,
that would sound good. So Mandy has been a Flavel for just a few years now, since 2017. But haven't been a Flavel now for 41 and a half years. I can tell you that is not as clever as it was when I was in third grade, and it hasn't gotten any cleverer since then, but it does seem to entertain everybody else. No, it's all good. Growing up in the time of Flavor Flav, that was a common reference. But there you have it. We got another question, a question from Tracy. I would love for Mandy to talk about the bloat she went to in White Springs, Florida, so many years ago.
Oh my gosh. God, this was.
Tell us the story.
I'm not sure. It's like 2009 or 2010. Alan might have to correct me. I went with my kindred, and it was Alan and his boys. I think all three of his boys. And we had rented a cabin at a pardon me. Excuse me. Hey Nick, can you turn my side off?
So my wife is gonna tend to our sleepy child. So here's another thing. Aside from all this, she decided today she was not going to take her nap. So that makes her a little bit extra spicy come 7 o'clock. But I think Mandy's going to go and lay her down for bed, because I think that's what time we're at here. So she will be back and join us here in a minute. We were on a roll there doing some good stuff. So now I'm sorting back for just Matt questions or just Matt stuff. I appreciate you guys kind of bearing with me and my family tonight. It's it's a little bit different than a normal show, and this is kind of a view of what goes on in the Flavel house. I'm just looking through the questions right now, so please don't mind any dead air while I do that. We've got a question for Aubrey. What is your favorite food? Honestly, her words aren't quite there yet, so I don't think she'll be able to answer that question. This is a little game Aubrey likes to play. She'll find something she really likes. So then we will go to the store and get her more of the thing that she really likes. Then she all of a sudden doesn't like that anymore. And she's got us on that several times now. That's a game she likes to play. I don't know. She seems to really like mac. She likes anything that involves cheese. And
cheese,
my wife
and mustard.
Well, so my wife and I are retarding her a little bit, and we don't need to, and we're trying to correct that. But it's the cutest thing, because she has decided that cheese is shishi. So she will refer to cheese as shishi, and we think it's so cute that we refer to cheese as shishi, and I don't think that's helping her get it figured out. So we're going to work on that a little bit.
No, mustard. I would say usually consistently pickles, mustard. She's definitely my child. And cheese. And
all right, so Mandy has come back to us. She did not put the child to bed. So
she got some muffins. So
no, that's fine.
Some people are probably judging me, but she's gonna have some muffins. Before she goes to bed.
I wish I could eat some of those muffins too. They look delicious. So hopefully she's enjoying that. Heather asks, Matt, could you tell us about what Sigerheim means to your family? So it's hard because there's, as Mandy said, this is like 95% of our life. So I don't know a way to make a clean separation between what is Matt's family stuff and what is AFA stuff. But so much of the dream of Sigerheim is to have my daughter around other kids that are sane and other parents that are sane, that will look out for her, and to where I can look out for their kids. And so she can be around a whole village of people that share common values, common beliefs, and common heritage. That's huge. We love where we live. If the option was, just where to live as a single family, we love it here. But I would rather live anywhere surrounded by my very best friends and by people who are part of my AFA family than to be isolated somewhere else. And so the idea is to be in this community every day and not just live close to other AFA members, but interact with them every single day, to live that village lifestyle with people that I care about and people that I share things with, and to have my family be a part of that and have that community. To have, if I'm out of town, I know there's people that are going to take care of my wife and my daughter if something goes wrong or they need something, or there's, a plumbing issue or whatever else. And by that same token, if other members who are there leave, we can help look after their kids. We can help check in on their wives if they need help. Having that is that's been the dream. That's been the dream since I joined the AFA, since I found Asatru, and reading and being aware of our history. That's been the dream all along. And so Sigerheim is a huge thing for that. And I'm looking forward to being around other families and other couples that we love and sharing our life together on that, and having something beautiful and special for our children to grow up in and grow up into. Means a lot to to my family. What is the requirement for homesteading there at Sigerheim? So we're working on that. I wish I had a really perfect answer for you. There's certainly thoughts. One of the first orders of business now that we've purchased the land.
I'm sorry, Shay, that was awesome.
Apparently there's awesome things going on in the side chat I don't know about. Hopefully not at my expense, but either way. So what I was going to say though is, fidelity is one of the requirements. I'm sorry to plug tonight's core topic, but realistically, that's the idea, is people that are going to be super AFA loyal, because it's a significant investment and it's a big deal. People that want to participate and make this their life and not just a group they pay some dues to and are in and out, but make this their church, make this their family, and be willing to do that. We want people who are going to be able to, now we're going to build eventually like guest cabins or guest dormitory areas, or however that's going to be set up, to where people who don't have their stuff figured out financially have a place to stay while they do that. But ideally, it's going to be ideally families. I'm not saying a hard rule on no singles, but the idea is families who are willing to build a nice home there. Now that can be a relatively humble home, or it could be a mansion. It depends. I don't know your finances, but I want you to be able to build your dream there. But what it does mean is we're not going to look like the res. Our stuff's going to be well taken care of. It's not going to be junky. It's going to be something worthy of our gods looking at and being proud of, and not being offended by all the beat up, broke down vehicles in the lawn and trash in the front. That's not going to happen. The other thing is, and I mean this, is a financial commitment to the success of Sigerheim. If we run through hard times, if something comes up, it's going to be on the people in that community to make sure that it works and that community works. And so that's going to take different shape depending on what we're doing. I think that as a first step, people who want to homestead there, instead of the 1% Hoftoller, probably to start out at 10% Hoftoller for living there. But I don't know. Again, it's not like a fee thing. It's like being a contributing member to making sure that this community is successful. One of the other things is it's never going to be fair. The first pioneers that go there are going to invest way more of themselves than the people that come in, number 10, number 11, number 12. They're going to have figured it all out. They're going to have to spend less. And if the issue is fairness, it's never going to be fair. But if the issue is this is what you love and where you want to raise your family, then we want to help make that happen. So the exact requirements, we're having our law speaker, Alan, and a couple other members who are attorneys look into that and try to get that figured out on just exactly the shape that's going to take, to where it's the most protected for what we're trying to do. But if that's something you're interested in, reach out to your folk builder and they can get you to me and we can get that figured out if it's something you're considering. King of Cheese is asking his Streamly question. How are the three of you doing today? Well, I hope. Mandy, how are you doing?
Okay, first off, Tony, that was awesome. I couldn't stop giggling. Tony, if you haven't been reading the chat, babe, Tony has changed his name to King of Shishi. So I'm doing good. A little bit sleepy, but I'm doing good. Aubrey seems to be doing good. She's a little bit, we just got home from soccer, which is probably why she's eating all the food in the house. But she also did not take a nap. So
Aubrey's been pretty good today. We've had a pretty good day. I'm doing great. Like I said, this is just me. I stress, don't worry about it, but over getting close to getting Sigerheim here, the problems always come in the last couple, in the last stretch of the race. So I've been stressing that, and it's really nice now to sit back to be able to. That's finally real. It's a thing. We have a piece of land now we can reach out and touch that we're going to build our future on. And so I am overjoyed. I am particularly proud tonight that my wife is on here with us, and mostly proud of my daughter when she's not making loud noises that are interrupting.
I have a head injury. Remember that time she broke my nose? She broke my nose, y'all. That's the first broken bone I'd ever had in my whole life. She broke my nose.
So
baby heads, y'all.
So baby heads are a thing. So I was sleeping, and it was Mandy's turn to go in there and deal with Aubrey because she was having a hard time. This was probably a year ago. And so Mandy goes in there, and I wake up to this like crash, boom, bang, there's chaos in the child's room. I get up and I go in there. Mandy is unconscious on the floor, and my daughter is standing up on the bed looking at her like confused as to how that happened. Apparently, they were in there laying down on the bed, and it was pitch black. Aubrey stands up. Next thing you know, she falls over like a tree, and her head impacts Mandy's nose and breaks it and knocks her unconscious. She lost consciousness 3 times, and I went in there, and it was the craziest situation. So when you deal with toddlers, keep your hands up,
dude,
and be aware of where their head is at all times.
Okay, so I was just reminded that I walked away before I finished answering my question about White Springs. So,
oh yes,
is it okay if I? Okay,
no, please tell us the story.
I think I had just talked about who was there. I remember we did like a kind of fireside, like little informal thing, and then the next day. Gosh, I really don't remember much about the ritual. It's been 12, 13 years. And then we went to Stephen Foster State Park, which is right there. And that was really cool. I'm excited to go back to that because it should be super close to the Hoff. I can't remember if I was a member of that, and I must have been. But yeah, so it was pretty cool for me to see that the location we were choosing was where I held my first not backyard, but actual went to a AFA event, and that was really cool. Full circle for me.
It was weird, one might say.
Don't say that in front of Alan.
No, I said it appropriately. I'm meaning it the appropriate way. Alan would celebrate me on this. Specifically for this event, because he was involved in the weirdness. So we got another question. Mandy, can you tell us about your journey into joining the AFA?
Sure. Well, I was raised sort of without any religion. So, yeah, my mom didn't really practice anything. And so, but if you grew up in the South, you know that if you were staying over at a friend's house, you were going to church with them on Sunday morning if you stayed over Saturday night. Or if you stayed the weekend with them, you were probably going to go to Bible Baptist church. So did that a few times. Didn't really do much for me, honestly. My mom always used to say, am I shouting? I feel like I'm shouting. Baby, am I shouting?
You're not shouting. You're good.
Okay.
Go for it.
You see how well he listens? So my mom always used to say the phrase, the church of God starts at home. And that's always kind of resonated with me a little bit. But yeah, I remember that I had started dating, I was like 16 or 17, and I'd started dating this born again Baptist, which, again, if you're from the South, those are the worst ones. Yeah, I remember he had me go to a service with him, and I don't remember what they were talking about, but I wish I could remember specific. Oh, it was the story of Job. They were talking about the story of Job, and I remember, and I have always been just completely horrified by that story, everything about it. And I remember we left, and I'm like, I don't believe in this, nothing about this. And we broke up shortly after, but you're 16, 17. and went off to college. And I watched the movie Practical Magic. This is how old I am. And I was like, I'm going to be Wiccan. Wiccan is what I'm going to be. This is what I am. And it is solely because of that movie. And I remember walking from my dorm, and there was this little bookstore. This is in like rural West Virginia. The fact they even had this. And I bought some tarot cards because that's what Wiccans do. And I bought, what's his name, Gardner, a couple of the Gardner books. And I know if there's ladies in the chat, y'all know which ones I'm talking about. And I remember just this is what I am. And I remember you'd have to, this was before you could order things from the internet, but it's not like it is today. Like you get a catalog, and I remember looking at the catalog, and I'm gonna get this cool pentagram because that's gonna be cool. But it never really did much for me, to be honest. And I remember not really liking any of the people I ever met through it. And also just the realization that it's kind of hooey. But it was just many years later that a friend that I'd had for a really long time, he started talking about this thing called Asatru. And it was just kind of in the periphery because I wasn't really involved until finally one day I was like, what are you guys doing? Can I come? And I remember going to my first ritual. It was just a backyard bloat, informal, just maybe like 5 people. And it was like, wow, just this is it. This feels right. And the very next day, and we don't even really have ravens in Florida, so I don't even know how I saw one. I was doing, if you are a runner in Florida, you know that there are no hills. You just run on bridges. That's your hill training. And so I was running on this bridge, and I was coming down it, and there was, to me, it was a raven. Maybe it wasn't, but it was a very large blackbird. So it's a raven if it had the same effect, right? And it was just hollering at me, just like, rah, rah. That's my raven noise. You're welcome. And I like stopped in my tracks. I almost tripped, and I just got super breathless, and I called one of the people that were there, and I talked to him about it, and he's like, that sounds serious. I'm not very esoteric. If anybody knows me, they probably know that. And so I can't really go into the like deep spiritual aspects of what happened, but it just, and the one thing about Asatru for me was that I never had to change anything that I already thought or felt. It was just a name for it. Yeah, so that's been about 14, 15 years now, I guess.
All right. So Trent asks, Mandy, tell the truth. Is the banana sauerkraut thing actually delicious, or is Matt just trolling?
I think delicious is not the best word. It was not delicious. However, it was edible. I did have a second helping. In fact, I had it for breakfast the next day too. So it's weird, but it really wasn't that bad.
Law speaker. She's misusing weird.
Oh,
it is not weird.
No. Alan's going to get me.
He is going to get you. No, it is delicious. She's mistaken, but she did have 3 servings of it and didn't complain. It's awesome. You will like it when I make it for you.
Trent, you'll like it. You'll like it. It's better than anything produced by Megadeth.
What? So, all right. I'm not going to go into that because that's not setting the bar high.
Trent is one of my most very favorite people on this whole entire planet. I will never forget meeting him. I am so glad and honestly humbled that he is such a close friend of mine. Trent has really questionable taste in music.
That questionable is kind. So Christine asks, can you two share with us your wedding ceremony? How did that change your relationship with each other, the gods, and the AFA? Nick, can you post that picture, please? And Alan, or not Alan, I apologize. Mandy, could you go ahead and answer first for us?
The ceremony. So this was our second marriage, both of us, and so I don't know. I kind of did the really small thing the first time, and so this was bigger for me. we planned this. We got engaged at Ostara, and then we got married at the midsummer. So it was what, like 3 months, maybe like less than 3 months, I think. So honestly, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of weddings at events because I think it takes away from the wedding. However, we knew that the people we would want to invite would be coming from so many places that they would all kind of already be at this one place. So we planned it specifically at the very end of midsummer, once midsummer was over, because we didn't want to put a bunch of people out. Anybody that knows Matt and I know that we do not like to inconvenience people, and we will actually inconvenience ourselves so much in order to not inconvenience other people. But yeah, I knew kind of immediately that I wanted it to be Alan doing the ceremony, and because he's special for both of us. He was my very first folk builder, and yeah, we just kind of planned it really quick. And sorry. You go ahead, baby.
All right. So I will give a plug to Aubrey. She is doing really good on her potty training. She's pretty squared away on that. You guys got a little inside view into her potty training.
She has to announce it when I'm home. When I'm home, she has to announce it.
Well, she gets a reward. She gets these M&Ms, and that's part of it. So we both, and this is why I misspoke and said Alan earlier, we both wanted Alan to perform the service so much. He's been really important to the both of us. I don't know, Alan is one of my closest friends, certainly, but he's one of the people that he's one of the people that I look up to and I respect in a way that, you know, differently than other people. I'm getting used to my Alsharier Gothic swagger, and I'll own the room with a lot of people, but I'm pretty deferential towards Alan. I'll still fight for what I got to fight for and make stuff happen. But Alan is one of those people that I really look up to, and his opinion.
He knows kung fu. He could whip you.
Whoa, hold on. My jujitsu ain't no joke. Ain't no joke. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll test it. I hope not. I don't want none. But realistically, Alan's somebody that I really look up to, and it was such an honor to have him do our wedding. We did our wedding at Odenshoff. I think we were the first wedding at Odenshoff.
I think so too.
It was midsummer of 2017, and it was 114 degrees that day.
And me having just moved from Florida, I remember people like, oh, it's going to be so hot. I didn't notice a thing. And even in a full wedding dress with crinoline and everything, this dress was from the 1950s. So that thing was heavy. I didn't even sweat. I didn't even notice it. That event, we had people falling out the whole time. There was like kids passing out. And I was fine.
It's strange. Perhaps it's weird. You can see in the picture, I was wearing all black. I think I had a red vest on under that. But yeah, I was wearing a 3-piece black suit, and it was 114, and I don't handle heat. Like, I sweat really, really easily. I don't handle heat well at all. But that day, I don't even remember it being hot. I remember it being hot because of the other people that were falling out. But I was fine. Like, my mind was so focused on the day and what I was doing.
And we wrote our own vows, which I wish I had written mine down, because I knew what would happen is I would just like, blah, 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 and that's exactly what happened. I don't even remember. I honestly couldn't even tell you what I said.
That doesn't matter. That all of that, I was there with just this woman that I love so much in front of people that I cared about at the first half of the Asatru Folk Assembly with this person that meant so much to us performing the ceremony, hey, there's no way you could mess that up. It was amazing. And
but people were ready to go. Afterwards, people were ready to go.
People were ready to go. It was hot. You're out in the sun. There was some stiff competition on getting the seats that had a little bit of shade.
Yeah, we learned a lot just in terms of wedding at that event. There's some things, knowing now, I would do differently. Like certainly our pictures were all taken at this really strange angle that I definitely regret.
No, stop. Look at the picture
Christine,
that's up right now.
awesome. Christine did my makeup for me.
Look at the picture that it's up. It's beautiful. We have beautiful wedding pictures. It was a beautiful wedding. Most beautiful bride in the entire world. It was amazing. It was neat because it was a really good midsummer as well. I think that at the time that was a record-setting midsummer. So for the wedding, my dad and my stepmom came, and because it was midsummer, they decided to spend the weekend there with us. So they brought their RV and they stayed there for the weekend. And that was really important to me too, because that's the moment that they realized that their son wasn't just some loser doing this crazy pretend thing or whatever they thought it was. That's when they got to see that it was very real. They got to go to our first Hoff that was a real, they could reach out and touch it and lean against our home. They got to see that. They got to see well over 100 people there who were very devoted to what we were doing. And on a personal note, it's just neat. Like watching, I came from being, some lame, nerdy kid in high school that was nobody. It was, I think, very interesting for my dad and Carol to watch me around some really hard dudes that were treating me very deferentially. That meant something to them that, oh, okay, he's doing something important. I remember they went to our auction, and like my dad's trying to find deals, and he's just blown away. Like I watched this on his face when he was figuring it out, because people are bidding like $400 on a book that he knows damn well you can go on Amazon and get for like $50. And so the moment, and I saw it on his face when it clicked, no, these people aren't participating in a for-profit auction. They're donating to their church. And my dad, and I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, but materially, that's always been very important to him. He's been very successful, very ambitious in his life. He's got 2 different retirement streams coming in. He has managed his finances extremely well. So has my stepmother, and they both live very, very well, and more power to them. I'm very proud of them for that. But they associate dollar value with the value of things. Them being able to see the tangible value of what I was doing, that meant a lot, and that showed them that this is real. And so that was special too. It was good to have them there. My mom was pretty far into her dementia at that point, but she was there, and I'm glad that she was there with us. As far as how did it change our relationship with each other, I really don't think that much it did.
Yeah, we had already been living together for like pretty much the duration
2.5 years or so before then. I don't know, something like that. We were together. Well, we were together for about 2.5 years at that point, right?
Mm-hmm. And we'd been living together for probably the 2 months after you moved to Florida.
Yeah, so we've been living together for about 2.5 years. So, I mean, I think our relationship with each other didn't change that much. But it was, so I don't think it was a change, but the evolution was complete, was appropriate. If we're going to do this, we have to do it right. You get married. You're
not just going to be Facebook married and just change your last names.
Yeah, you go through these things that are real to do this right and to represent that at the highest level. And getting married was, never a question. That was always very important to us. It's not just as good to be Facebook married or just as good to live together but not actually be married. No, we wanted to get married in front of the gods, and we wanted to be legally man and wife. We wanted that for our life, for our future, and I think that was really important. We were very honored to be able to get married at Odenshoff. We went and we had, just a couple of days worth of honeymoon, but over in Lake Tahoe. And that was really cool. We went.
I got a room for $27 in Lake Tahoe. $27 a night.
It's because it had no air conditioning.
And I don't think any of them do. No, upon research, I don't think any of them do.
That's not true. I guarantee you, all of the casino ones do. But I like the place we stayed. It was fine. It was great. It was beautiful to be at Lake Tahoe. It was really nice. The first night after we got married, we got there and we were super hungry. And Mandy's still wearing her dress, and we went to this burger place there, and that was really cool. And people bought us around, and it was just neat. It was a really, really nice thing. Yeah, I got nothing but great memories about that.
Because somebody needs to go to bed. So, or when I disappear, I've told Nick to make me disappear temporarily, and so just so it's not a surprise.
All righty. So Mandy may leave us here at a moment's notice. Mandy, what is the best advice that you can give to couples who are both in leadership as far as balancing public life and private life?
Don't make your private life public, I think, is my biggest piece of advice. There is nobody that needs to know about your private business besides you. It doesn't need to be on Facebook. It doesn't need to be on Instagram. Keep your private life private is probably what I would say.
I will leave it there. It was asked for Mandy's advice, and that is Mandy's advice.
Do you have a rebuttal?
Well, not really a rebuttal, but this is my advice on any of that. When you have compartmentalized sections of your life, and that's fine, but live honestly who you are, and they synchronize. Don't have it to where if somebody secretly got a window into your private life, like you're this whole different person. Be who you are at all different points. And by what just happened to the screen, I'm assuming that Mandy is going to take my daughter to bed, and that's cool. I'll farm through the questions and see if I find some Matt ones. If not, I will try to entertain you until my wife gets back. But yeah, I would say as far as balancing things, be authentic all the time. There's nothing worse than finding that secretly this person is a completely different person in private. We all have different sides of ourselves that we show different people. And of course that's the case. I mean, you guys get on here and I'm trying to dress nice and whatever. If you guys saw me sitting on the couch in my no shirt on and my pajama pants, playing with my cats and my daughter, it's going to be a little bit different, but you're not going to fundamentally see a different person. And I think that's really important. Let me take a second to look through the questions here and see if there are any just Matt stuff. Okay, here's a good one. Or I don't mean to say a cavalier. Here's an important one. Antonio asks, what's the best way to handle with people you cared about that has depression? I need advice. First, thank you, Antonio. I recognize your name for being on here so often and participating. And I'm really glad that you keep watching the show. As far as helping people deal with depression, it's really, this is an important topic, and it's hard to give blanket advice because the root cause for depression is so very different depending upon the person. Hey, sweetheart. So one of the things that I deal with a lot as a Gothi is dealing with people who are going through depression in their life, especially that was a huge thing during the COVID lockdowns. So many people that struggled with depression had their normal means of dealing with that taken away from them. Obviously, it was very hard for them to go in person to any kind of therapy that they may have been going to, but just activities that they had to help cope with their depression. If they like to go out to the bar, well, those were closed. If they like to go to the game, well, they couldn't do that. If they liked to, go do anything that they had in their life to cope with those things was taken from them. And it was a very hard time. As far as advice that I would say on dealing with people with depression, don't assume you can fix it. Don't assume that you have to have. Good night, Aubrey. Don't assume that you have to have the right answer that's going to change it for them. This is something I tell our Gothar too. You didn't break it. And I say that. I don't know if maybe you were the cause of this person's, but I'm assuming that you're not. You didn't cause this problem. The only thing you can do is try to help. So everything you do counts and is good and matters. You don't have to have the right answer that fixes it for them. What is always beneficial to do is to be able to listen and to actively listen. Don't let there be any doubt that maybe you're not paying attention or that maybe you're not fully devoted to it. But you don't have to solve it. But man, that's terrible. Yeah, it hurts hearing you say that. Man, I hear what you're saying. I'm so sorry you're going through that, but I hear you. I love you. I care about you. Is there anything I can do? And just that helps a lot more than you would think that it does. If somebody's going through depression, one of the things that I've noticed in my time as a Gothi is when people are depressed, they want to pull away and retreat and kind of curl up in a ball and pull away from all their friends and family. It's the exact wrong thing to do, but it's what all of us, including myself, want to do. It's what our tendency is to do. If you have someone you care about who's depressed, see if you can hang out with them. You don't have to take them out and do something crazy. You can just sit there and watch TV and have something to eat with them. But surround them with love and with people that care about them. The more you can be around them. And again, don't force yourself in, but if they're open to it, have them be around people and just listen to them. And there's something that's very valuable about somebody who's willing to witness what you're going through, acknowledge it, validate it, and give you a hug and be there for you. And sometimes it's the best thing you can do. And if there's more specifics, I could advise a little bit more specifically. But as a general rule, that's what I would say. And thank you for asking, Antonio. I think it's a really good question. And so many of our people today do struggle with depression. So that's a really good thing you asked. Again, I'm farming the questions here to see some just Matt ones, and I'll go back and get the other ones here when my wife rejoins us. I'll go ahead and take ownership of this one. At what age/economic status do you think a man is ready to marry? That depends on the man. And I know that's a cop-out answer, but it really, really does. In 2020, So in times past, we have examples of people at very, 15, 16, 17, that they're grown men. They're holding a shield in the shield wall. They're fighting for their country. They're fighting for their king. They're raising a family. They're providing. We had times where men grew up very, very early. But in 2022, we have times where men grow up very, very late. Maybe they're the 15-year-old that I mentioned from 1600 that was a grown man. We have guys that are, 27 that aren't as mature as that young man. So I don't think I can put a specific age on it. But what I want to dispel is this myth of economic status. Any economic status. You can be making zero, get married and start a family. There's a couple things, and I know this is controversial. There's a difference between what I would vote for and what I would take advantage of. And by take advantage, I don't mean anything shady. Our system is structured a certain way. If there are benefits set aside to provide for you, if you are young, economically disadvantaged, and you have children, take as much of that as you are legally entitled to take. If you don't, then my tax dollars are going to go to other groups of people and not to my own people. If we're going to be taxed for it just the same, I want my tax dollars to help my people, just like other folks want their tax dollars to help their folks. So take everything you're entitled to make that work for you and your family. I have seen too much in life that if you wait for the perfect time, then time passes you by and you find yourself old and alone and barren and, wow, I finally got my finances figured out and I'm 60 and you're kind of out of luck. I'll say this, and it wasn't so much economics, it was just thinking that I had forever and not taking the time. We didn't have Aubrey until both of us were 39 years old. We were very fortunate that that's something we were able to have happen. That was our shot, and we could have very easily missed it. The both of us had spent most of our, child producing years. And we'll get to it when the time's right. And if you play the game like that, the clock will run out on you before you know it. So I think that, but here's another thing. So you said it's not just economic, and you said what age, but it's not so much the age, it's the maturity. What I would say is don't do. If you still need to be at the club every night going home with a different chick, don't get married and try to beat a square peg into a round hole. You need to be the kind of man that. So I'd say this, and this is a convoluted answer, but there's a lot of different factors to it. You need to be at a point where you can be the man that you would want your daughter to marry before you decide to marry somebody else's daughter. Women are primed very early to want to get married to this guy. And if you're not ready to be that guy, then it's probably not a good time for you to be married. And that changes in the course of a man's life. At least I know it did for me. So if you still need to measure your success by how many women you can get to go home with you, I'm not faulting that. Don't get married when you're in that phase. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to your wife. It's not fair to your family. Get to a point where you want to be and can legitimately try to be the man that you would want a future daughter of yours to marry. And then you're okay to marry someone else's daughter. And I hope that's meaningful. Again, I know I'm skipping through the questions differently because I'm waiting for Mandy to get back. Okay, so this is a really interesting question. Thank you, Allie. As a Gothi, have you ever been asked to marry a couple you knew were not going to work? No, so far I haven't, but I do anticipate that's a very likely thing to have happen. I did marry a couple one time that I didn't know very well, but they wanted me to do it, and I did, and I don't blame myself for this, but I was really offended that that marriage only lasted a couple of months, and I don't feel like either of them tried very hard to make it stay. I don't know their relationship. I don't know all of the details, and I'm not trying to call them out personally. But I think that's the closest I've come to the question that you're asking. One thing our Gothar really try to do, and I know that we have varying degrees of how intrusive this is depending on the circumstance, but we do try to do a little bit of marital counseling before we perform a wedding, to help that couple make sure that they're ready to take that step. Now, we don't push that, we don't force that, so it's on them, but we would like to provide that so that they know this is something they want to do. And I think with the couple in question, we tried that a little bit. And, but yeah, that one stuck with me because it was really, I don't like doing that and then having people not take it seriously. So that's the closest I've come, and I hope that answers the question. Okay, so we have another question again from Chelsea, and I think this is a good question. Is Pennsylvania Dutch heathen lore? I love these quotes. Kiss and don't last, land lasts. And to a friend's house, the way is never long. I feel it's deeply ancestral and relevant. Is it? Of course it is. Folk customs are really important. You don't have to have the name of one of the gods in a quotation for it to be meaningful and for it to be relevant to our faith. That folk wisdom that's passed down through our cultures is lore. It is our folk soul. It is our gods. It is our faith. Now, every little quirky saying your grandma says isn't holy writ. But yes, I would say a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch tradition comes directly from our lore and our culture. I won't butcher the word for that, but what? Maybe I will butcher the word for that. What is that? Ogawe? I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but I know that the Pennsylvania Dutch hex signs are always something that have been really cool. That's something that Githia Pat Hall was really into, and she did a lot of those. And those are absolutely our cultural current with our symbols and our, runology in her case. So yes, I think that Pennsylvania Dutch culture absolutely speaks to our lore. Now you have to look at it through a critical eye, but certainly that's part of our heritage, and we do ourselves a disservice to discard it just because it doesn't have some kind of Viking coat of paint slapped on it. So yeah, I think so, definitely. My wife has rejoined us. I'm going to go try to find where the last question was that you answered and see what we can do with that.
There's a book we have to read every night, and it takes us a couple extra minutes.
That's okay. All right. I think I'm where we're at. All right. Cliff asks, hey, Mandy, we see asked all the time from the fellas, how do I find an Asatru wife or similar? Do you have any advice for women who are looking for an Asatru husband? Among so many fellas.
Yeah. I would say not much different than the advice I gave earlier. Just be someone that somebody wants to be with. Be true to yourself. Um, if you're gonna come into these circles, don't go hoeing around. Uh, People see that and people talk. Your past is your past, but just be a woman of quality, a woman that people want to be around, people that a man would be proud to have on his arm. In terms of advice, I didn't realize, and I mean, this was what, 8 or 9 years ago, that single women weren't really coming around in these circles. I didn't know that. I just was coming around. I lasted exactly one national event, but yeah, I would say don't be scared to come to an event, and even if it has to be a larger event, um, I know it can be super intimidating. You don't really know what's going on, who's going to be there. Is it going to be a sausage fest? Is it going to be just all women anymore? It could be any of those things now, man. Um, but yeah, I would say if you're hesitant, if you're not a member yet, reach out to one of our folk builders. And we have so many female folk builders now, and they don't even necessarily need to be in your state, but reach out to one of us. You can reach out to me. Yeah, we'll talk to you, but see what we're about instead of seeing what you might see written about us.
All right. Can you please talk about the importance of shared values in a relationship / marriage, or even friendships? Thanks. Go ahead and take that one first.
I really couldn't imagine it any other way. I mean, I briefly, for maybe less than a year, dated somebody who was a strict Catholic. He had zero interest in Asatru, like zero. I had zero interest in Catholicism. I will say this: I had never been to mass before, and mass was interesting. Not enough that I would want to convert or anything, but just mass is super interesting. I love the traditions. I love the rituals. I honestly, I want to compare it to football in the SEC. Like, there's football, but then there's just all the awesome traditions that go with it. And that was really lovely. I went on to a midnight mass service, and I think there was one other one. I was just trying to be supportive. It turned out that guy was kind of a jerk, so it didn't work out. Worked out. I don't know. I don't remember the question.
Shared values in a relationship.
Oh yeah, and since then, I can't imagine it any other way. And Matt and I are pretty. I don't know if it's unique, but we're only a month apart in age, and we were raised kind of similarly, so we know all the same jokes. We almost never, ever, ever have to explain the joke. We both get it. Always. Almost always. He's dumb. He's dumb sometimes. Maybe. Yeah, I just can't, even if he wasn't my husband, he would probably still be my best friend. Because I mean, everything in terms of we both, oh man, if you know us in person, you know we are eaters. We are excited to eat. If we know, and we don't eat out a lot because we're both on pretty strict macros. I am particularly right now, but if we know we're going to go out, we will talk about it for days. If we know we're trying someplace new, we'll be looking at the menu 3-4 days in a row. I mean, it's the buffet. Matt and I, that's how I knew it was love. When we went to the buffet and there was no judgment from his side. In fact, I had finished one plate and he's like, "You're going back for more, right?" I was like, oh, yeah, just music. The sing-alongs we have in our car are ridiculous. We probably alienate anybody that drives with us. Any of it. I just can't imagine another way. I don't ever want to imagine it being another way. Yeah, if you don't have that, I'm sorry. Is that rude? If that was rude, I'm sorry.
No, we're keeping it real. Truth is one of our virtues. Truth is Cliff's virtue, and Cliff would approve.
If you don't want the truth, don't ask me.
No, I appreciate that. And he keeps it real. So, shared values, it's huge, and it's the thing that stays solid throughout the years. I mean, circumstances in life change, your situations economically change. Having kids is a huge change. There's so many variables, but if your core values and core beliefs match up, that is something solid to hold on to, whether you're rich or you become poor, whether you're, successful or you're not, no matter where you live, where you go, what you do. If you have those same core principles that you share, it's huge. And everything Mandy talked about, all the different commonalities make up so much of that day to day. You need to find that with the person you're going to build a life with. And it's very easy to assume that you'll build that down the road if you can just get decent, raw material to work with. But that's very, very hard to count on. And I think that seldom comes true the way people want it to. Find somebody that has those shared core principles. And that's why I think it's so important that people find their mate within the AFA, is that they have our church as a foundation to build their marriage on. I think that's really important. It made all of the difference in my life and so many of us, and I think that it will in yours as well. So the next question is from Sarah. When I first joined the AFA, both Matt and you posted photos of your gym time together. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that time together helped strengthen not only your bodies, but your relationship?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We don't get to go to the gym together anymore because our gym doesn't. We go to the best gym in the world, and there's only 2 complaints. One, this is Andre. We go to the best gym in the world, and the only 2 complaints I have are the weekend hours, and they don't have childcare, which I've talked to the owner, and it's just the liability is just so ridiculously expensive that I don't blame them. But yeah, that was big from the start. I wasn't as big into strength training until I met Matt, and then all that changed when he would. Can I do that? My arms aren't in the thing. My arms aren't as impressive, but he better watch out because I train with an Olympian. He's going to Olympia next week. Yeah, it's huge. The mental benefits, the physical benefits, and maybe it's controversial, but you want to be somebody aesthetically, physically, mentally that your partner's proud of at the end of the day. And it's taken me a long time to lose the baby weight. I was like, I'm not going to be one of those ones that's going to gain all this weight when I'm pregnant. And I did everything right. I followed a pregnancy program. I went to the gym 5 days a week. I meal prepped. I still gained almost 60 pounds. I really have no idea what I could have done differently. But in fairness, they did close the gym at the last 2 months that I was pregnant. Anyway, where was I going? Oh, it's never been lost on me that Matt is in terms of our circle, is a public figure, which by default makes me one too. And I want to make him proud. I want to be proud of the person that I present in photos or at events. Yeah, it's huge for us. We go to the gym every single day. I go at about 5 a.m. closer to 5:30 now, between 5:30 and 5:45 a.m. when they're both sleeping, so that I can get it done. Because if you're a mom, you have to do it when you can, and that's when I can. And then I come home and I do some type of cardio. I try to incorporate Aubrey in that, but the weather hasn't been conducive to that. So I have a spin bike here at the house, thankfully. That thing has saved me. I tell you, I'm not a home exercise person, but that sucker, I've had it since almost 2 years now, I guess, maybe. Yeah, I guess about 2 years now. And I love it. I'd never taken a spin class in my life. This is not sponsored. But no, it's huge for us. Our schedule is very much around when the other one is going to go to the gym. And there's never a like, hey, honey, let's do this instead of going to the gym. Like, never. There are times where if he is like banged up or sick, I'm like, you sure you want to go to the gym? But
and what do I say?
Yes, he always goes. But yeah, it's a huge part of our lives. Huge part of our lives. Another thing I wouldn't have any other way. I am sad that we never get to go together, though.
So, Sarah, you asked about, does that time together help strengthen our relationship? And it does, and it's one of the really hard things for us. And this is one of the inspirations, honestly, for Sickerheim. We had Aubrey at a really interesting time. We had her April the 18th of 2020.
So the very height of COVID.
So all of the COVID restrictions were going around and people were more separated than ever. Neither of us have had any family help in dealing with her. My mom, no fault on her. She's literally senile. I love her to death, but she can't take care of my daughter. I know she would if she could. My dad and my stepmom, they're true believers in the whole COVID thing, and they have shunned us because we weren't. Mandy's father's not around, and her mother is terrified of flying and didn't come out here. So, my point being, we didn't have any local support. We are in a place that we love, surrounded by people, but we don't have those close people that I want for us at Sickerheim. So Mandy and I have we've had one date since we had Aubrey. Aubrey's 2.5.
Thank you, Daniel and Heather.
Daniel Young and his wife, Heather, were out here to visit us, and they gave us a night to just go, and her and I have a date together. That was the first one we had in 2 years. So, that
time. We had to go to the gym together the day before.
Yeah. We also had to go to it's the first time we've done that in years. Yes, as a foundation to build our relationship on, it was really important. And because we did that together for a certain amount of time, and it's part of our lives, we can still build relationship around it. We talk to each other about how the gym was when we were there, or who was there, or whatever. We talk about our routine. We talk about our diet. We talk about those things together. And I think that's been really nice for our relationship. But time together is really important, and it's hard to come by when you have a young child, especially if you're isolated. And that's one of the dreams I have. And I know that these dreams come too late. By the time we get there, it won't be the same deal. But what I want is to be able to watch other people's kids when they're a young couple and they have their first child and they need that time together. I'm happy. You should. That's my favorite thing. You should see me do these baby namings. I love babies and kids. I'm really happy to watch them so that other people can go and get that time with their spouse. So I think that's really important. We've got a donation, our first one of the night on Entropy. Michael, thank you very much, Michael. $5. Appreciate that a lot.
Thank you, Michael.
He says, hail to you, hail to our gods, hail to our Volk. Here's a little something, too little, I'm afraid, to help support the important work you do. Hey, it's never too little. Thank you so much. Your $5 are absolutely appreciated. Thank you. No, that's great. Just got to sort through a little bit. I answered some while you're putting Aubrey down. Um, Sarah asks, Mandy, you run an awesome program for the AFA families, the Baby Blanket Project. Please talk about it.
Oh, I should go grab one. Yeah, it started kind of by accident. I want to say 4 years ago, a friend of ours up in Alaska was having a baby, and I was like, I'm just gonna make him a blanket. And somebody else was having a baby at the same time, and I made them a blanket. And they had posted about it online, and somebody was like, "Oh wow, what a cool program! We should start doing that for newly born babies." Now, at the time, there was maybe one or two every few months. So this was that's Ryan Skinner's little baby. He's not little anymore. I need to send a new picture. So it was completely manageable. It was me and Mary Minshaw and a former member in North Dakota, and some other women that were making some, and it just exploded with our membership. And we, I believe, are at, so after that we did like maybe a half dozen, and then the next year it was, I want to say 23, and then last year it was over 35, I think, and now I think we're at 42 with the baby born a couple days ago. So yeah, if you're in the AFA and you're a crafter and you can make baby blankets, we can use them, because I have 3 fixing to go out here shortly. Yeah, it's one of my most favorite things. We try to send it pretty shortly after they're born. And I love getting pictures of the babies with their blankets. It's one of my most favorite things. It's just me. So yeah, I was told that if I get nervous, I should just smile awkwardly. Here, Ob's laughing. I see you both smiling. Changed since having Aubrey? I think mostly just that we don't get as much. Oh, should I read this aloud? Has our relationship changed since having Aubrey? Do you have advice for couples wanting children? I would say that it's changed in that we don't get as much time together, just like we just explained, and that's difficult. We mostly just get a couple hours in the evening, but because I get up so early to go to the gym, that's cut a little bit short. But we're managing to get Aubrey to bed a little bit earlier. Normally, I wouldn't let her stay up this late. So we get a little bit more time, and of course, we have weekends. But that's been the biggest thing, is we just don't get as much time by ourselves together, because now she's taking less naps. I don't remember the second half of the question. I'm sorry. My advice for couples wanting children: don't wait and be old like us. If that's the person you're going to be with, do not wait. Now, we didn't plan to wait that long. Circumstances were just what they were. But yeah, I think my advice would be, know who you are as people. Make sure that you're going to teach them the same values, that you're on the same page with parenting, because that's super important. And yeah, don't wait.
So I'm celebrating Sigerheim with the narwhal. And when you drink the narwhal and you sit for hours doing a show, liquid's got to go somewhere. So I appreciate you holding it down, Mandy. No,
it was super not awkward at all. It was super not awkward at all.
No, it was super awkward. I heard it from a distance, but I still appreciate it. That said, on the question, I mean, Christine, you obviously know this, but there is no way I could convey it to people who don't have children. Nothing I could say would make you understand what it's like to have children. And I know that's super obnoxious when I didn't have children. When I hear that, it is obnoxious. I give you that. But as a father, life has a different dimension to it. And I don't think it's, really changed our relationship in a way that I notice, and I'm sure that it has, but our relationship was strong before and is strong now, and is strengthened through our devotion to raising this child, obviously. But everything else in life has a little bit different meaning to it. The things that you're doing in the world outlive you all of a sudden when you have a child. It's not just what I can do until my wife and I pass. It's what we can do that my daughter can take on into the future. And, all of that is obviously common sense, but you feel it in your bones when you're a parent. The example you set, I want to be the best I can be for the gods, for the folk, for my wife, for my ancestors, but it's entirely different and amplified in a very different way. I want my daughter to see her daddy as, this man that I want to be. And that is a strong, strong motivation. I want to role model to my daughter what a man should be, so that when she finds her husband, she looks for someone who exhibits those values. Because I think we all, I think as men, our father defines our life. Either we want to be like him and impress him, or he does poorly and we want to do good in spite of him in some way. But I think one way or another, our actions are determined by that. And I think with girls, that's huge. I mean, you hear about the girls on the stripper pole because they got the daddy issues. I don't want that for Aubrey. She's going to behave one way because of what a crappy father I am, or a different way because I did something right. And I want to do something right, not just so she's not making money on the pole, but so that she gets a man that treats her well. And it's so important. Like, and this is way beyond your question that you asked, but I tell her how pretty she is and how great she is and how Aubrey's the best. You're the very best one. Because I want her to have that self-esteem. So many of our girls don't grow up with that. I want to be her biggest cheerleader for the rest of her life, so that she knows how special she is, so that she ends up with someone who treats her like she's that special. And that's really important. And we've gone way outside the bounds of the question. But I mean, some of this is just stream of consciousness. The questions make the conversation go. And I think that's important. Hey, Matt, are there any examples of how our ancestors dealt with infidelity? Sort of. It's funny because you use the term infidelity, and in 2022, that means, cheating on your spouse. But in 722, that meant something really different. It meant turning your back on your Lord when he was in peril. It meant, when the shield wall was up, you turning tail and running. It meant something really different. Not that it doesn't imply the other, but depending on where you were, any type of disloyalty and any type of cowardice was probably the most extreme thing that was dealt with. And in that same regard, in our lore, those that are on the strand, that souls get dissolved by dripping poison in the afterlife, that was for people who broke fidelity. That was for oath breakers. That was for people who, hey, I promise you, no matter what, I got your back. And then when stuff got thick, They didn't have their back. That was one of the most heavily looked down upon things by our ancestors, and rightly so. There's that example for our lore. Again, it was the cowards and the homosexuals that would get stomped into the bog. And again, I pointed that out in a previous show. It wasn't because that's gross or we don't like it. It's because that was such a shameful thing that we wanted to bury it beneath sight. Like that was out of sight, out of mind, because we didn't want to contemplate it because it was so disgusting to our ancestors. For you to, that was one of the fundamental virtues of our folk, was that fidelity to your Lord. It was your job as a retainer to a Lord to not let him fall in battle. You would die by his side rather than let him fall. And it was his job to never let you outperform him in battle. And that synergy made our people amazing on the battlefield. But when you turn tail and run, and your brothers and the Lord you supported are out there fighting and dying, that was so shameful that our people just wanted to make it disappear beneath the earth. And that's shown in how it's dealt with in the afterlife. That idea of fidelity, of staying that course to our ancestors, was everything. That is the most important thing that's always stuck to me out of Beowulf, was Wiglaf staying with his Lord when he's fighting the dragon. All the other Thanes, everyone else who's won rings and lands from their king, they run because it's a dragon and he's terrifying. But one man stood with Beowulf and held his shield and fought the dragon with him. And that was Wiglaf. And that's always meant so much to me since the day I started reading our Lord. Next question. Will either of you be joining us for Yule at Thorshof on the 16th to the 18th? Mm-hmm. We will not. And I would, if I could, if there was a way to do it, I would love to be at Yule at every one of our Hofs, at every one of our kindred Yules. I wish I could be a million places at once, because Yule is such a special time, and I know that everybody's got these amazing Yule celebrations, and I want to be there. Nope, we're going to be doing Yule at Odenshof, assuming we can all make it. I'm going to find a way to make it. It may be tricky to see if my wife and child can get there. That pass, Donner Pass in the Sierras, it's no joke. It gets closed pretty often with really heavy snowfall.
It's fixing to be closed tomorrow.
That's what I hear. That's word on the streets. No, I'll not be able to get Yule at Thorshof, but I will be there in spirit, and I hope you guys are having an amazing one. I know it will be. I know Heather has gotten a tremendous amount of toys and coats. This is the first year that Thorshof is going to be giving away toys and winter coats for folks in their community that might not have those things otherwise. And I'm really proud of that. And again, I would love to be with you guys for Yule, maybe one day. But this month is not that day, unfortunately. Do you guys know of any books about the gods which are for children? What say you, Mandy?
So there's the one that our folk builder Jim Cummings have written. He's written 2 of them, and those are good. I don't know what age you're talking about, but I actually, some people don't like it. I actually like Children of Odin. It was one of the first ones that I read. I think it makes the lore kind of manageable. Those are the only ones I can really think of for kids. We haven't really gotten that far with Aubrey yet in terms of books. She's still reading 4 books.
I really don't have any great book recommendations for kids to you.
We're just not there yet.
Yeah, we're just not quite there with Aubrey yet, and we will be when we get there. I would really recommend, if you want to really answer that question, um, go see Rob Stam, R Stam with two M's at runestone.org. He is the dean of our homeschool program, and I think he's probably got some really good advice for you on that. So another question, Matt, tell us more about meeting your wife. So it was.
Let's hear your version.
All right.
We've had some contradictory versions in the past.
So this is the accurate version. It's what, it was 2014.
Do you know the year?
I know things. Hey now. So it's 2014. In August, Brad and Gilly and Steve and Sheila and I were driving a Citroen rental van through the Teutoburgerwald in northern Germany. And we had just crested a hill and we were coming through a valley and we could see this beautiful forest out in front of us.
I've never heard this story before.
The same forest where Herman defeated 3 legions of Rome. And I forget what we were talking about or what brought it up, but I remember they said, Matt, you really need to meet our kinswoman, Mandy. You guys would get along so well. You guys are such a good match. You guys really need to meet each other. And it didn't go much further than that. Like, oh, yeah, tell me about her or whatever. But again, I was in Alaska and she was in Florida. So I came back to the States. And again, a man from Alaska, a woman from Florida, conversation in Paderborn, Germany. So that was probably August. 2 months later, we both were able to be at winter nights in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. And I met Mandy, and I remember walking across. I was coming from the upper part of the property, and she was down by the main building there. And some little exchange of, it's you. And we got to meet each other. And
that's wrong.
No, that's not wrong. That's exactly how it happened. And so I felt a little bad because I was very much focused on Mandy and not other responsibilities I may have had at this particular event. And I feel a little bit bad about that, but not really. But I was really focused on Mandy. And we did stuff and she.
No, wait. No, we didn't.
No, that's not what I mean. But we hung out together and whatever. And then I remember we were in the infirmary. There's different cabins where we set up different people, but this infirmary was heated where some of the other cabins weren't. So we'd set up, elderly people or different people there that needed some heat. I don't even know why we were in there, but we were. And Mandy did this thing where she stumbled into me to see if I would catch her or not. And I don't know what game she was playing, but I grabbed her and put my arm around her and caught her because I'm raised right. But that was her secret test to see if I would do that or if I just let her fall on her face and look there stupid. I don't know. I don't know what other people she'd been with, but I put my arm around her and helped her to not fall down. And I think that scored me some points. And then we hung out together and we were walking down. There was something going on in the playhouse, which was down the hill from the main hall there. She had heels on and she did please help me. I can't manage them with my heels. And she grabbed on my arm and that was good. It
was real though. It was a ploy, but it was real. So I don't wear heels at events anymore.
You should fix that. Heels are awesome. So we walked down there. And then when everybody else was watching the music and doing other things, we sat on the porch there in these porch swings and just hung out and talked and spent that time together. And, somebody came by and gave us some, man, I'm forgetting
Moldovan wine.
Moldovan, some Moldovan wine. And we drank the Moldovan wine and hung out together and spent the evening spending time together. And it was really, really nice. And I mean, it was all done at that point. It really was love at first sight. That was in October, 10th through 14th ish there. And, by Yule time, I was down in Florida. I'd packed up everything and moved across the country to Florida to be with Mandy and to start my life there and to build that future. And I was down there with 2 years with her. And yeah, that's how we met. This is an interesting question. If Flavel had a flavor, what would the flavor be?
Pickles.
Wow. So it was a clever turn of phrase, but you made a mistake and asked the wrong person that sits here and analyzes this stuff. It's like me and Svan last week, somebody asked a question like, what's your 5 favorite books? So I got to actually think about that. What would the Flavel flavor be? Mandy says pickles. We all like pickles. Pickles are delicious. I'm not, that's easy. So hold on. All right. There's no way on this podcast or in this podcast / broadcast that any of you guys are going to be interested in my thought process on this. So I'll give you a couple of things. We like acidic, mustardy, and pickledy flavors. That's certainly a Flavel trait and thing. Mm-hmm. As far as mead and alcohol goes, we like fruity stuff and sweet stuff. I would say that orange spice is certainly a Flavel flavor. As the one conferring the name, I'm just going to take ownership and say that's a thing, whether it doesn't have to be agreed upon. It's imposed. So cool. I'm going to call it orange spice. Orange spice is the Flavel flavor. I'm going to own it. That's what my family's got. If Aubrey,
somebody that makes me make it.
Aubrey learns how to talk and says she doesn't like it, then beatings will ensue. No, it's a thing. Best mead that I ever had, there was 2 that are about tied. There was an orange spice from a former member and a pear spice from a former member, and they're the best I've ever had. Orange spice, I'm just an orange spice guy. I'm that guy that likes the chocolate oranges around Yule time. So orange spice is going to be my deal.
No, Allen's orange blossom mead is my favorite.
It's too dry. Everybody likes the Law Speaker's mead. I think his mead is very good quality. I just like a much sweeter mead. That's my taste. Another question. Will we see the Flavels at the Odenshof Yule? You will certainly see at least a Flavel at the Odenshof Yule, but I'm going to do everything in my power to bring all of the Flavels there. We look forward to it every year. We do Yule big at Odenshof. I believe I'll be doing the Yule bloat there. I love it, and I hope that we'll be there for it. Again, the past could get sketchy. I'll be there for it regardless. The King of Shishi. Matt, Mandy, what do you think of my new name?
I love it.
I love it as well.
I'm so impressed, Tony. That's awesome.
Our daughter would love it. That was a nice gesture. Well done. What region is Sigerheim in? So Sigerheim is in Thorshof district at present. Once we establish Tiershof, which is 2 hofs from now, at Sigerheim, it will be the district seat of its own district. But that's probably a few years off. Daniel says, question for Mandy, Hogan or Savage?
What? How could you even do that to me? Oh. I gotta stay true. This episode is about fidelity. I'm gonna say Hulk Hogan. Hulkamaniac household. Hulk is the man. My brother. I'm gonna say Hulk Hogan. See, I thought you'd go deeper than that. I thought you'd ask me an HBK question, but I'm impressed.
See,
I think Hulk Hogan.
You got to if that's the choice, but that gives short shrift to the Macho Man. I think the Macho Man is a very strong number 2.
That's
general.
Hard, man. That's hard. Daniel's gonna have to put his
it's unfortunate
what he thinks in there.
It's really not. Hogan is obviously better than the Macho Man, but the Macho Man is better than pretty much everybody else.
No.
So Cliff says
Hulk Hogan was able to body slam Andre the Giant.
That says something.
I don't think that the Macho Man could do that.
He could not. No, he could not, Mandy. The Macho Man could not body slam Andre the Giant. No, he could not, but he'd give him a flying elbow. Yes, he would.
I see. We're keeping it real in this episode. There's a lot of people that didn't know you could do that. I cannot do that. I couldn't even do a Miss Elizabeth.
I can do many things. I'm a man of many talents. Yeah. Cliff asks, can I juggle? Literally no. Figuratively, yes.
Neither one of us can juggle.
Daniel says, Matt, Mandy, how do you manage your time apart?
We talk all day long. We talk or text all day long. If it's as simple as sending random Instagram reels of cute puppies or something, the memes just fly sometimes. Just random. I can't talk about that. I was gonna say, so this is terrible, but I was gonna say, often we'll just make really stupid references because we always get the joke. So the first thing that comes to mind was, the guy from NXS.
Stop. Pause.
We would say, remember that time Michael Hutchins hung himself from doing stuff he shouldn't have. If you're listening to an NXS song, like we talk all day long across various platforms. That's how. But do you remember that time that Michael Hutchins hung himself?
Why, remember, yes, I do, Mandy Flavel. We've got no time apart. We talk from the end to the very start. That's how our relationship is. And that's how it will be. Yes, it will, Daniel Young.
Quick wrestling interlude, because I guess this wasn't that common knowledge, but Daniel probably knows it. But apparently the Undertaker has found Jesus, and he's like now super, super Christian, which is very interesting.
Most of those guys found Jesus.
I'd rather they find Jesus than find a dress.
So time apart, honestly, it's stupid how silly I am on time apart stuff. Like, it's not just with Mandy, some of it is, but it's really, really particular since Aubrey was born. I love to travel, and I travel to a lot of different AFA stuff. And I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I absolutely keep doing it. But man, I miss my family. I miss my family bad. I'll take a flight, and it'll be a 4-hour flight. And by the time I touch ground, I'm missing my family. And I appreciate Mandy sends me pictures of, Aubrey when she wakes up and whatever. And I miss them terribly when I'm at places. It was such a important thing for Mandy to come with me to events. and I miss her at events so much. She hasn't been to very many things with me when I've traveled. Only one since Aubrey's born. Aubrey's 2.5 years old. She went to a Star in the South 2021 with me. And that was really cool. It was great to have Aubrey there, but it was a lot of work for Mandy. Aubrey was great on the plane ride down. She was good on the plane ride back. The layover was rough.
What
And then
plane
when
were you on?
No, the way down, she was perfect angel. Yes,
Oh,
she
on the
was.
trip there, yeah.
On the way back, she wasn't great on the plane. She wasn't horrible. But while she was down there, she was sleeping in a new place and she was nuts. And Mandy had to deal with her. And again, when I go to these events, I got to wear the Alzheimer Gothi hat and I've got a lot of things to do. So Mandy takes all of the dealing with, the screaming infant, and that's hard. Aubrey's older now, and I really want to get them both out to some events in 2023. We'll see how that goes. But
Yeah, we're
I'm
hoping to make it to some. She just doesn't do too well outside of her routine.
I'm silly and I'm a baby when I don't have these people with me, but I love my family and I miss them. I love traveling. I love all of those things, but I miss my family very quick. Lawrence with 10 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much, Lawrence. Seriously, you are on every single week and you probably donate $10 every week. And I
Thank
really
you, Lawrence.
appreciate you. Hi, Matt. Nice to meet you, Mandy. As an example of old time fidelity, I learned through letters that my grandfather, a captain in World War I, was so committed to the cause, as misguided as it was, he threatened a couple of privates with his sidearm, dissuading them from running during a heated battle. That's got to be hard, Lawrence. I appreciate that your grandfather was so down that he was willing to do that, and it's awful to think about, but when you've got that many people there, there's a herd mentality, and you get one guy that runs. Next thing you know, you got a whole line of guys that run from the front. So him being able to stand there and be the enforcer on that, on those guys needing to go over the top with the rest of their unit, that says a lot, and it really does speak to fidelity. Yeah, good for him. Hail to your grandfather.
That's awesome.
Next question. I have to be honest, I'm 39 years old and have no kids. I feel like an idiot. I chase different women like a moron. Can I still support our folk if I never have kids?
Yes.
Have kids. Reject the paradigm. Make it happen. I did it 39. She did it 39. It's possible. Do that. Fix it.
You have way more time than she does.
Yeah, that's true too. That's biological reality. But realistically, for anyone out there who finds themselves past childbearing years, can you still support our folk if you never have kids? Of course you can. Of course you can. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's the same. You should have kids. You should have had kids. Your life is better if you have kids. If you can't have kids and you don't have kids, that sucks. And that nothing I can say makes that not suck. But of course you can. No matter what situation you find yourself in your life, you can still support your folk. Folks that are past childbearing years, you don't know what Mandy and I would give for some older folks that didn't have any kids to want to watch Aubrey for a night so we could go so we go to the gym together, or so we can go have some, all you can eat tacos or whatever the case might be.
So I know that this came up as a question from a man, but this was a conversation that came up, and if Brandy's still on, she can maybe correct me in the chat, or Christine, but a really important question came up on our not question, but topic that I'd not even heard of about our ancestors had special names for aunts and for just the women that were kind of either couldn't have children or were past that child bearing age, but are still so important to our folk. And I'll tell you what, I have some women that for whatever their circumstances don't have children, can't have children, haven't had children, and they are integral to us. Someone like Crystal Podbreger at Odenshoff, she's couldn't be more of an aunt to Aubrey. And those people are so important to our culture still and always will be.
You know, it sounds trite or silly to say, because of course we're going to say you guys can contribute. Realistically, it really does take a village to raise a child. Having multiple people out there, whether they have their own children or they don't, that want to help rear the children of our folk and be examples and help teach our future, that is always welcome. And honestly, to the parents that are feeling isolated and are alone and struggling, that's huge. You know, if you have somebody out there that hasn't had their own kids but wants to babysit or wants to teach the kids a special skill or a special thing they have, that is such a benefit to those of us who feel isolated and need that little bit of a break or that little bit of a help and a support in raising our kids. There's a lot of things you can do, especially as older people who have experience teaching the children as they grow older from your experience. That's such a resource. I mean, that child, like Aubrey, only has my life experience or Mandy's life experience to learn from. You adding a different life experience that she can learn things from is huge. You know, I've done a lot of things. I'm proud of the life I've lived, but I've never served in the military. There's a lot of things I've never done. If you have, you can teach my daughter about that. And that's welcomed and appreciated so much. Maybe she, when she gets a little bit older, she has a talent that has nothing in common with anything I'm good at. Maybe she wants to play music. Maybe she wants to do something artistic that's completely different than something I know about. If you can help her learn about that and be a role model in that, that's huge. And that's so appreciated. For your personal life, have kids if you can. But if you can't, there is so many very beautiful ways you can contribute to our children's life and to the next generation that we welcome those from the bottom of our heart. We welcome those. The AFA's stance on marrying somebody who is not Germanic, but is still European. As long as they're white folks, marry them.
I'm not German.
The AFA, that's the thing. I'm not either. The vast majority of my folk are English and other British Isles, whatever that category ends up being, with a very little being from continental Europe. And I know that goes down to a lot of particulars with the Anglo-Saxons being Germanic peoples, whatever. But my point being, the AFA, this isn't about Germanicism. That is the cultural lens that we draw our names and our stories from. But the AFA has always been and will continue to be certainly pan-European and pan-Aryan. As long as it's, your partner is white, absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. We'd love for you guys to start your family and be part of the Asatru Folk Assembly. Why does the Norn future scold mean debt? Um, so that's a little bit complex. I don't think scold equals debt. I think most linguistically correct, scold equals should. That implies the payment of a debt. It implies what should happen. But the idea, and I think it's really special in our faith, it's not future as if this will happen, because there's so many variables. You can have the greatest potential in the world. You can be set on the greatest course, and you can just decide, nope, I'm going to screw it up. And you can still mess it up. But scold is the future that should be. And I think the way in which I come in contact with Mother Scold in the most common way is when I do the baby namings. Because when I do a baby naming, I draw a rune from each of the Norns. And I always ask Scold to give that child something to shoot for, something to aspire to, a noble goal to direct her life towards, or his life towards. And that linguistically is a really subtle difference. There's no guarantee of the future. Our future isn't guaranteed. You can turn against your destiny. You can fight against the current. You can drop the ball. You can choose to cut your thread short and end your life early. There's many things that somebody can do to avoid what should happen. But if you practice the mystery of Raido and you do the right things in the right course of time, Scold describes where you should head towards. And that's, I think, the subtle difference on that. And I hope that answers that. Nick asks, why Reno? Because Reno's amazing. It's the biggest little city in the world.
It was an accident. It was an accident. So we moved out to the Bay Area, and that we were warned, not from people in the Bay Area, but I was warned. But that just completely fell apart almost immediately after we got there, and I am extremely grateful for it. But I was given a job in San Francisco, which on a map, Santa Rosa to San Francisco, that's only 60 miles. Anybody who lives in the Bay Area knows that means nothing. And that was a 3 to sometimes up to 6 hour commute, just the commute part a day. And it was soul crushing. And we were living in just such an expensive area, the cheapest place we could find in an expensive area. And I was just looking for literally anything. I was sending out resumes for anything. And this job, I was looking like around Nevada and Placer County. And I had gone to a couple of not interviews, but like the step before the interview. And this job opened up in Reno, and I looked at it and I was like, I could probably do that. I meet all the criteria. And I applied for it, and it probably the fastest government job at hiring in history. And we drove over for the interview. And I remember the pass was just a mess, but we made it over, and we get into Reno. And I don't know if you've driven into Reno from the Sierras, but it's beautiful. The view is beautiful, and everything was covered in snow and white and gorgeous. And so we went to the interview. It was 10, maybe 15 minutes long. I was convinced that I bombed it. We went for some Mexican food. And then we just, somebody had told us about all you can eat sushi in Reno. We thought that was just that one place. No, if you're in Reno, all the sushi, all you can eat. It is delicious. This is why I gained 10 pounds the first year that we lived here. And so did you, I think. And I'm still trying to get that last. I got all the baby weight off. I'm trying to get the last 10 sushi pounds off. But yeah, we went and got sushi, and we just took our time getting back home. Getting back to Santa Rosa, and the next day they called me, and I had the job, and within we applied for that job almost sight unseen. We had been to Reno one other time. We had flown in there because it was the cheapest from Daytona Beach, which is weird. Daytona to Reno, who'd think that would be so cheap? But yeah, we pretty much came sight unseen, and so yeah, we searched for an apartment, got an apartment, ended up buying a house in the same neighborhood as the apartment, and I love it here. We love it here. There's some things I would change. There's some things that have changed since COVID and since the like mass migration into Reno from California, but no, I love it here.
So Mandy
Yes.
mixes some things together. I was living out in Florida with Mandy, and things happened very quickly when I ended up becoming Asatru. So very quickly, I went from the third guy to the top guy, and it happened like within a month. And I knew in order to make this work, I needed to be where the AFA was. And at the time, we had just gotten Odenshoff. So all of a sudden, Mandy needs to pack up her entire life. I had just done this, a couple of years previous to move to Florida. No, Mandy, liquidate your entire existence and move with me out to as close as we can find to Odenshoff. And that first closest we could find was in Santa Rosa. And we had a family out there that were AFA members at the time that were, helped
Great.
us out, helped us get started up, helped us with some job things. I appreciate that so much.
Mm-hmm.
But we got out there, and California's terrible. It just is. Bay Area is even more terrible than general California.
Just as bad as you think California is, the Bay Area is so much worse.
So we tried to get that all figured out. And in Santa Rosa, we were about 3 hours from Odenshoff. So we did that for a while. It was about a year.
It was 384 days exactly.
There you go. That was cool. Our apartment complex was small and overpriced. We had a really cool hot tub, and that was neat. We did that for a little bit. We went over, as something to do for Yule, just me and Mandy. We went over to Reno, and I think Crystal had told us about EG2 had unlimited sushi. So cool. Me and Mandy are always down for some unlimited food. So we went over there, and it was good. We had our unlimited sushi. That was amazing. We went back. Mandy started looking at job postings. Found one there. Second trip, we went back to Reno. So the sushi adventure.
I don't think that's true.
It's absolutely true. You stop. So we went, and there's something magical that happens, and we take it for granted now because we do the drive all the time. When you drive between California and Nevada, there's a really stark point where the mountains go from being, big trees and alpine to being desert. And it's like one side of the mountains, you're one way, and the other, it's like you immediately cross over this line.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
knew what they were doing.
Like, ta-da, we're in the desert. Okay, cool. So magically, the state of Nevada takes way better care of its roads. So you hit this rough spot in the road. The road's rough. Boom, it's super smooth. And then you go into Reno and you see this whole different biome. It's so different. And like Mandy mentioned, it's snow covered. It was beautiful. We went and got some sushi. I think even that day we went to the gym that was affiliated with our gym. It was nice.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
I know we did. So that was cool. And we did that. Went back home, said, hey, Reno's a real option. Let's think about this. So she came over and she gets this job at the morgue. and they're like, hey, we just need to tell you before that this may be traumatic. You're gonna have to look at dead bodies. And Mandy's like, I'm cool with that. I love dead bodies. So she
Hey,
answered
hey,
this
hey,
really creepy way about the dead bodies.
stop.
And so, no, you hold on. Truth is one of our virtues. So she worried that that would mess up her interview. And then we ate Mexican food at this taqueria over by the university. It was good. It's not nearly the best taqueria in Reno,
Mm-mm.
mind you, but it was good. So
It's
we
good.
ate there and we talked about it. And she's like, man, I think I messed up. I was too excited to see the dead bodies. So
It's not true.
that is absolutely true. Be honest with our viewers.
Y'all,
So
it's not true.
it's absolutely true. But turns out that's why she got the job. It worked out. And we moved out here. So, fact of the matter, it was 3 hours from Santa Rosa to the Hoff. It is 2.5 hours from here to the Hoff. So, we're actually closer to the Hoff than we were.
Mhm.
Um,
But we're at the mercy of that mountain pass.
we're at the mercy of the pass, but man, we love it. We've got everything here you'd want from a big city, but it's small enough to where you run into people that you know. Um, my lighting has changed to where now all of a sudden I'm way washed out, but that's not how I started this
And I'm like
project.
way taller than you now.
It happens. It's crazy. It's the magic of the internet. Don't worry about it. But yeah, that's why Reno. And we found that what's really cool is we get cold, freezing winters, which makes me happy. Mandy gets heat in the summer, but not Florida heat. So the very first time we were in Reno, and she mentioned this briefly, we had gone to Midsummer 2016, and it was 110 degrees in Orlando, where we flew out of, and it was 110 degrees in Reno, where we landed. Miami 110 versus Reno 110 is a world of difference. And we noticed that immediately. But yeah, no, like I say, we love it here. It's all of the Reno amazingness and the sushi and the stuff. We're going to lose all that going to Sigerheim. We're going to replace it with literally living with people who are our folk, who are our family, who we love, who we'll be able to build our life with. And so we're going to have to trade in some sushi for some down home barbecue, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, that's I suppose that's the really long answer.
Really long version.
To
What was
why
the question? How did we get to Reno?
why Reno? But if you look
Oh.
at it on the map, it's about a halfway point between where I grew up, and where she grew up.
Almost exactly. I think it was like within 100 miles.
It works really, really well. And the other thing is that people don't take into account, Reno is really cool with the skies. So right over the Sierras, there's always a break in the sky. There's a storm system or something. But if you look out to the west, or to the east rather, the sky is entirely different. But in Reno, we get that. It was really hard for Mandy out in Santa Rosa because you'd have rainy weeks. You would have periods of time where you don't have blue sky and sunshine. If you're ever in Florida, every day is the most beautiful, perfect, sunshiny day. And there's a rainstorm that comes through in the afternoon in the summertime for 20 minutes, maybe. And you're back to the most beautiful blue sky and sunshine all day long. So the vitamin D thing was a big deal. She'd go out to Santa Rosa, and there was like a month, it was just rainy every day.
I think the first month that we lived there, it never stopped raining. From the second I crossed into Oakland coming north, it didn't stop raining for even a second.
Well, and that's not her normal, but Reno is cool because it's still that everyday sunshine, blue skies. And she gets that. She gets that vitamin D, that stuff. I'm used to in Alaska not having it, but it's really important for Mandy to have that. Okay. Brandy asks, have we discussed which WWE wrestler is the greatest of all time according to Mrs. Flavel?
Greatest is so nuanced. There's the greatest, and then there's like my favorites. So greatest of all. So if we're gonna say greatest, like pure, like talent, like he could beat you in the ring, that's the guy. Shawn Michaels, I will hear nothing else. If we're talking about who you're gonna fight in the street, well, I would lose to all of them. And then my favorite's always going to be Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan. HH brother. What do you say? But then there's other wrestlers I like. I mean, I love Ric Flair and I like the Macho Man. I like Triple H, but not necessarily for his wrestling prowess. Cover yours. And yeah, but my favorite like name is always going to be Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Always. It's the best moniker, I think. But I think Hulk Hogan. This episode is fidelity. This episode is fidelity. I got to stay true.
So,
we were a household.
So Mandy asked what my opinion was. This was not the original question. I mean, I was a Hulkamaniac since I was a little kid. Obviously, Hulk Hogan.
You gotta stay true to your roots.
You do have to stay true to your roots. There's some close seconds. Honestly, Stone Cold is really, really close up there. He's always been amazing. There's people that I like better than other people. Obviously, Macho Man is one of my favorite guys. Always was since I was a little kid. Oh, Mandy gets the magnet off my fridge with a NWO Hollywood Hulk Hogan figurine. Yeah, no, I'm a Hulkamaniac for life. There you go.
The last.
So
Ryan says, I don't know who the last guy is. I don't remember who I said was the last guy. Oh, Brutus Beefcake? He's not that good.
No, Brutus the Barber Beefcake is terrible, but his name was hilarious.
That's the best name.
His gimmick is really funny. So as far as I can read it, we have one question left.
Good, because I keep straight grandma hours, y'all.
No, it's all good. So Tracy wants to know, Matt and Mandy, how many cats do you have?
All of them.
3.
All of them. I think
we have 3 cats at present.
I think you met all of them. 2 of them look similar if they're not side by side. And then we have 2 Kittlers, and then we have an orange cat named Toaster Strudel.
We have Toaster Strudel. We have Andre, who is an enormous cat.
I introduced him briefly.
We have his sister, who is alternatively known as Annabelle, or by our child as Ababu.
Aubrey can't quite say. Ultimate Warrior was awesome, Adam. Ultimate Warrior was. I had not remembered Ultimate Warrior's promos, but then Matt had reminded me, and we had to go back and watch some of those. And
he makes no damn sense. But Adam, I could see you being an Ultimate Warrior fan. He was very exciting. Can't say he wasn't.
He was exciting.
He was extremely exciting.
Ric Flair was exciting. They were exciting. Triple H was exciting. Stone Cold was. I stopped watching it by then because I had a younger brother, which is why it was always on. But I had moved out of the house by then. So none of us are excited as HBK though.
No, but he's
a sexy boy, Daniel.
He is very fruity. Hulk Hogan was not fruity.
He was not fruity. He was playing his part.
It's all about Hulkamania.
You're not in the frame, baby.
It's okay. It's a little tiny frame. That's how we do. Woo! All right, so I think that's the last we have for this evening. I appreciate you guys joining us. This is very much just kind of a dose of the
Oh,
Flavel household.
wait, Gone with the Wind.
What?
Oh,
Oh, I see.
and I don't know if that counts as a movie. So
Yes,
I would say Casablanca also, but I'm also not sure if that counts as a romance movie. It's my favorite romance movie.
all right. So Shlomo Sheckelstein asked what favorite romantic movie from Mandy was. And
Those
that's
are the first two that come to mind, but they don't really have happy endings for either party. So,
they are romantic.
man, those are the first two that come to mind.
All right.
Can you
Well,
think
I
of another
think
one that I like? You don't want. Oh no, the Philadelphia Story. The Philadelphia Story with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn.
there you have it.
That's or Bringing Up Baby, also with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. Oh, or An Affair to Remember with Cary Grant.
All right.
Oh wait, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is a good one too with Paul Newman.
There
These
you
have
go.
moderately happy endings, unlike the first two.
All right.
Daniel, don't be like that.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Um, it's really, really nice to have my wife on here. Mandy is such a huge part of what we do. In her personal life, she has given so much of herself to make the AFA work. So much of what I am able to do is built on the back of what Mandy is willing to do for us. Um, Mandy literally cashed in her entire life to come out here with me to run the AFA. She's doing it again when we move to Sigerheim. That's why we're waiting. That's why I need to make sure we have a house that's at least as good as this to move her into. Um, she has put so much of her own self on the back burner to allow me to be the Alzheimer Gothi of the AFA that I should be. It is huge and it makes all the difference. She has been here to support me this entire time. Behind the scenes, she supports our women. She rallies them to do different things. She advises them. She advises me way more than anybody realizes as far as how I do things, or if I'm going to send something out, I run it by her and she gives me her insight. She keeps me informed of what our members and our families are going through on times that I can't keep track of all of it. She has wrapped up her whole life and infused it into this so that I can be the best I can be, and so that our AFA family can be the best that it can be. And she doesn't look for a lot of attention or ask for it, but she deserves so much attention and so much appreciation. It is such a huge component of me being able to be the man that I am, that I have her there helping to make that happen and facilitating that, our life and our family. It's huge, and I'm very honored that Mandy just joined us tonight. Thank you so much, Mandy, for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for all the people thank you for the nominations. I really didn't want to come and do this. I was super nervous. I've been talking about it all day how nervous I am. Actually, for the last month, how nervous I am.
No, you're silly.
I hope I didn't sound silly.
This is low stress. You did awesome.
I got beat up. All I gotta say.
Ain't nobody beat you up.
Do you remember the time she broke my nose?
I do. Aubrey beat you up that one time. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Just a note, Sigerheim is ours as of today. Hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA.
Bye, guys.
And remember, victory never sleeps. We'll see you guys next week.